This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling product, Vitamin E Ointment, which helps restore moisture and elasticity to your skin. It's a good thing to try now because the humidity is low and everything is so dry out. It's drying your lips and your cheeks and everything else. But what I want to tell you is they also have a product for dry eye formula. And my husband was having a problem with that, too much computer time and the dryness in the air. And he has tried this product, and I swear to you, within a week, his eyes were not as dry, and they seem to be getting so much better with this dry eye. I can't see you guys. Here, dry eye formula. There we go. I'm so bad with this camera. I'm sorry. But I want to tell you, it has some fish oil in it, and I think that's what's really helping him along with the other herbs and things. It has mackerel, sardine, and anchovy oil in it, as well as milk and soy. So I want you to be sure to remember, always check with your healthcare professional before taking any kind of new herbs, supplements, or anything else. And make sure it's compatible with your health. So, okay, I wanted to tell all of you that because I'm so thrilled with this dry eye formula and what it's doing for him. All right, so, you know, on the little tagline on my title page that says Judith Mancini Today, it says to inspire, inform, and entertain while sharing secrets to becoming healthy, wealthy, and wise. And what I want to share with you today is inform. If you are informed, you can make better decisions for your life, your happiness, your business, and you need to be informed. So today, I'm going to start out by informing you about some things I've seen on the news. And number one, I want to tell you, I am totally confused. Now, first of all, I will say I do not share excitement over these COVID vaccines. I'm not in favor of them. I'll be right up front. We took the Johnson & Johnson, and we waited a long time to get that because it's not full of the mRNA formulations as some of the other ones are, and it's a one-shot vaccine. And neither one of us have gotten COVID. We've been cautious who were around, who were very healthy for our age. But what I want to tell you why I'm confused, you know, the name of our Secretary of Health and Human Resources, I think it is, his name is Xavier. What is his last name? Harris. No, that's our vice president. What I want to tell you is he says you need to get another booster. Another booster, it's only been 8 weeks since you were supposed to take the last booster. When you get a flu shot, which I also don't take, I'm not a health nut, but I know what my body can stand and what my body can't stand. And I'm not in favor of a flu shot every year. Now, I might change my mind this year because it's supposed to be a very bad flu season since lots of us have been locked down and our immune systems are weakened because of that. So I might change my mind this year. But I don't see why, other than the fact that Pfizer and Moderna have contracts with the federal government, that you would need a booster 8 weeks after taking the last one. To me, that says it doesn't do anything. And we know for a fact it does not prevent the spread of COVID. That's in the scientific papers, and you can Google it and you can see what the numbers are on that. Now, just after he came out and said that, Kamala Harris, our vice president, said, "Oh, we're going to just have you take the one booster once a year, and that will be fine, just like the flu." That's why I'm confused. So if you're confused, as I am, get on the internet and look it up and see what they're saying about it. I would say one thing, I don't think children should be taking this. We don't know what it's doing to them. They've been locked down and had no education for so long of any sort because they've been in their rooms on the computer and nobody can watch them full time. And I would be bored watching it on television too, or rather the computer, same thing. So if you are confused and you don't know what to do and you're concerned about your kids going back to school in person, which they should have been in since the beginning of September, you should be studying this. And that's why I say I want to inform you and I want to inspire you to be informed. All sorts of things are going on with these boosters and just the regular COVID shots. And one of the things that's happening is the military has gotten rid of about 20,000 people across all branches of the military. And that's because they don't want to take the COVID vaccines, whether it's a religious belief or their scientific belief, whatever, they don't want to take them. And I think we still live in a free country the last time I checked, and I don't see why it's mandatory for them to take it. They already take over 20 or something like that when they enlist, and a lot of them get sick from it. That's a lot in one time to be shot with all these things in your arm with multiple vaccines coming in. So we need to build up immunity, but this has another effect on our country, that these men and women are refusing to take this shot and they're being dismissed and they're not getting paid. It has to do with the number of people protecting our country. It's down over 20,000 people just because of these vaccines. I want you to get on the internet and I want you to look up the state of our defense system. And you should be concerned because we have a lot of enemies literally gunning for us now. We have Putin in Russia. We have the Iranians, Khomeini or whatever he is that is running it because of women's rights that we support and because of the nuclear pact that they try to keep going. We have China, and they're really on the verge over Taiwan and many other things. And now, of course, they're rioting in China, and that's over lockdowns for COVID. COVID has a lot to do with all these things that are going on in our world and how dangerous it is. And you need to be informed, whether you want to be political or not, that's up to you. You can take either side. We have two major parties in the United States, the Democrats and the Republicans, the conservatives and the liberals, and there's libertarians in the Green Party and this and that. There's a lot of ways to choose. I don't care if you sit down and argue with your friends over political parties. What I want you to do is become educated on these major things that are affecting us. Now, there have been lots of side effects, and now some of the deaths that are increasing are from people that have been fully vaxxed. So they're getting COVID again. Some of them have had it several times, and they've been fully vaxxed with boosters and everything else, but they're still getting sick. And some of them are dying, and now it's becoming quite apparent that something is going amiss here. I want to tell you, I just said that we waited forever to get the Johnson & Johnson because at that time, they didn't say there were any side effects of Johnson & Johnson. And then they came out with one warning, of course, after we had taken it, that pregnant women were having embolisms, blood clots, things like this. So they removed it from distributing it and checked this out. And these women seem to have had something else going on in their pregnancies. So it went back on. We did get it. But lo and behold, over a year and a half after we got it, I started having some really strange symptoms. And I thought it was due to my age. I started having tingling in my upper thighs. And it was quite disturbing, and my leg muscles were getting weak. And I do walk to exercise. I'm not very conscientious about it, I must admit, lately, since losing my son. But I intend to get back on it. And there were other things. Mental fog was one of them. Maybe losing my voice is another one. I don't know. But excuse me, I seem to keep losing it all the time. But I discovered that on the internet, that this was a symptom of the Johnson & Johnson vaccines. I thought I was getting old and that this was going to be part of my getting old, and it was creeping me out, quite frankly. Everybody wants to live forever. Well, maybe not forever, but you want to live to watch your grandchildren or your friends or what have you. And I try to take good care of myself, but all of a sudden I'm having all of these really weird aches and pains, and I'm going to the doctor, and they thought it was a neurological problem, but I don't have any neurological problems, as we did some tests. And I find out that there are a lot of people who had this from, apparently, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So that's another reason why I want you to check out these different websites and check out the effects. You should do that for everything. There's apparently an explosion of measles now in our country and all over the world because people aren't getting their vaccines when they're children for measles, mumps, and rubella, and some of the other ones that they give you. I'm not against vaccines. My mother was a polio victim, and during the time that she was partially recovering from it, she was always on a respirator and a quadriplegic. So her mind was perfectly wonderful, and she went on living her life to the best of somebody who was in that condition. But when I was in elementary school is when Dr. Salk patented this. I shouldn't say patented because I'm not sure he actually owned the patent on it, but he discovered it, he worked on it, and he developed it. And it started being distributed on sugar cubes and then by injection. And it eradicated polio all over the world. Now people have decided they don't want to take any vaccines. And I'm against that. So I'm not a no-vaxxer. I just think you need to check out what's going on in that world and make your own decisions. I do not think that the government should control your health. And that always gets me onto Medicare and Social Security, because people put their money from their paychecks into those things. And whether it's your spouse who's doing it for you and them, him or her, whomever is working, maybe you're all working, you pay for those things, so you're entitled to them. I'm not in favor of socialized medicine. That's a whole nother conversation, and that's a political conversation, so I'm not going to get into that. Get on the internet. It's your new encyclopedia. For some of you that are not tech savvy, you can do it on your smartphone. And I know you all know how to use a smartphone if you have one, because you take pictures with it. You send texts to your kids and your grandkids and your friends, so you know how to use it. Google it, do the DuckDuckGo one, do something to educate yourself on all these things. So the Xavier Becerra, who is the Secretary of Health and Human Resources, he is a former Attorney General of the state of California, and he was Attorney General from 2017 to 2021. Now, can you please tell me if that is his qualification for being the head of our health? And he came out with this recommendation to get a booster 8 weeks after you had your last one? What the heck does he have to do with that? Well, his assistant is Rachel Levine, and I'm not quite sure of this person's sexual identity. I know it's on the internet, but I don't remember it, and I'm not doing that on purpose. I just don't know. But she wears the uniform of an admiral of the Navy. She is actually a medical doctor. So I hope she has studied this and is making some kind of good contribution to the decisions of Secretary Becerra. I'm not sure about that. So again, I urge you to check it out on the internet. All right, well, there's another thing I want to discuss with you today. And that is this big discussion on AirDrop. If you're not familiar with AirDrop, it's something that you can access through your Apple products, your Apple smartphone and laptops and computers and things like that. I could access AirDrop. They ask me all the time if I want to share my photographs through AirDrop instead of texting them or emailing them, or just sharing them on some social site. So that's what that is. And you can look that up also, and it has some long explanations of what it is. But here's what's happening. Apple has decided to close down AirDrop in China. And in China, that's where Apple has most of their products manufactured. And this is a huge amount of money for Apple to be saving and to be benefiting from contracts for manufacturing in China of Apple products, Macintosh products, those things. And they have shut down AirDrop. And why is this dangerous? Because they're rioting in China right now for freedom of speech and lockdowns. They have been locked down too long. They've been locked down continuously because of the spread of COVID. They still won't own up to that this is their fault, that this escaped and they manufactured it. So there's a big problem there. And not too long ago, last week, I believe it was, a tall apartment building burned down because the doors and windows were locked. They've been welding them or nailing them shut, and 10 people, including a baby, all roasted to death in this building, burned up because they were locked down. And that's what started the protesting over there. Now, if you protest over there and they decide to arrest you, they sometimes send you to these camps where they give you a new education or they torture you. And this is all documented. And we should be, I hate to use this cliche, but up in arms over these kind of human right indignities and prosecutions. There's a lot of this going on right now. In Iran, they're protesting because this young woman did not want to wear her hijab and cover up her hair, and she was an athlete and was competing. I believe it was in rock climbing, something like that, where the hijab or headscarf was getting in her way and she couldn't tie it so that it wouldn't blind her as she was participating in this sport. And she was arrested and tortured because she said, I don't want to wear it anymore. And of course, the women supported her. And the next thing, everybody was supporting her because she was killed in the prison when she was arrested. She was killed by torture. So in Iran, they have all banded together, including men, parents. And again, this is a ruling party in Iran that has very strict rules that they should be following. All of the good, true religious Muslims all over the world are protesting this. This is not what they want. So this is something else you need to look up on the internet and educate yourself on. This has got to stop. When they arrest these young girls or the men that are supporting them, and I'm talking college age, what would be high school age? You know, there's no education for these people anymore, for girls. In Iran, a woman automatically is married off by somebody chosen by the family. And when she's married, she only has 50% rights no matter what. She's only 50% as good as a man. And this is true in her own home family too. So sometimes fathers take their daughters who want some rights as the men want to share in driving a car, walking without a male, being a chaperone, wearing your hijab. They want to have equal rights. So they're protesting over the death of this lovely, beautiful young girl. Well, the soccer team has some very brave and educated men playing on their soccer team. And if you follow world football, which is what most of the world calls soccer, is football. And if you've been watching the World Cup, you know that the United States won our match against Iran 1-0. Well, the first day of the World Cup, when all the teams were being introduced and all, the Iranian team chose not to sing their national anthem. And the next day, they heard that they were going to be arrested when they came home, that their families were going to be arrested and tortured and imprisoned. So the next day, when the Iranian national anthem played, these guys stood up there and against their wishes, they mouthed, and some sang very softly, their national anthem, trying to protect their families back at home. I'm sure they are frightened so much. I don't know what has happened to them. I want to keep watching the news and see what's going on. So this is what's going on in your world. And that's why I want you to be educated. So that's my lecture for all of you today about world news and what you can do to participate in it and educate your children why these different people are protesting all over the world for these different things. And people, if you know some that are not proud of the United States and don't want to live here or do nothing but say it's a horrible country, think about all these people trying to come in who want to escape. They don't have rights like we do. We can say whatever we want against or for the President of the United States. You should know that now, because many people with the last two presidents, the one in power and the one that just got out of power, lost the election, many people have said nasty things about each one of them. So it's up to you to choose who you want to support. But you would not be able to do that in any other kind of socialistic or communistic country. All right, everybody. So what I want to tell you about is it's time to map out what you want to do in the upcoming year, 2023. Do you know that it is day 336 of 2022, and there's only 30 days left until 2023. So what are you going to do that you haven't ever done before, or what are you going to continue to do? Maybe you found yourself an empty nester. Maybe you retired in 2022. Maybe you just lost your job over the COVID time. Maybe you want to start a new business, study something. You could turn a hobby into a podcast. You could teach people how to knit or embroider. I just saw the most beautiful woman in her, I think she was in her late 70s, I believe, who was teaching people how to embroider. It's almost a lost art. I know how to embroider, but I haven't done it for years because I had two grandmas that were into sewing, and one in her elderhood was actually a seamstress. She liked to do that, and she had many clients who came, and everything was done by hand. It wasn't done on her sewing machine. She would hem the skirts and the dresses and take them in. She loved to do the handwork. So what I'm saying to you is you have to have a plan. I want you to decide if you're going to be passive as you age or if you're going to be engaged and open to being proactive in aging. And we don't really want to keep calling it aging, because in your 50s, 60s, 70s, even into your 80s, and some people into their 90s are quite capable of living fun, productive lives. Think of all the knowledge you have that you can pass on to your grandchildren or great-grandchildren if you're lucky enough to have them. Think of what you can still teach your son and your daughter or your nieces or nephews. You have a wealth of information having lived your lives. Maybe you haven't worked all the time. Maybe you were a school teacher and you ended teaching when your kids got out of school. It's your time now, but you can't expect to live and be really active unless you take care of yourself and are proactive in your growing older and growing bolder. So what you need to do is watch how much you move. You need to exercise all the time. Many studies have been shown to even walk for 30 minutes a day gets that blood circulating. But did you also know it oxygenates you, because the oxygen is coming in and it's going into your blood and it's warming up your muscles and your tendons and your cells in your body. And it's actually making things easier to do for you. A lot of people start out very slowly walking and they've had a balance problem. Some of them start getting it in the 50s and they just think this is normal and you can go on. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people are unfortunate enough to get cancer from genetic reasons and other reasons. Some people get terrible cancers and tumors on the brain, and I don't know why they can't spend more money and do something to eradicate this cancer problem. I would like to see them spend some money on that than on some of these other things. But you need to be proactive in your health. I talk a lot about diet and food and what's going on, and you need to feed your cells. Cellular medicine is all the rage now, because you need to feed those cells to keep those cells healthy, to keep the other things in your body healthy, like your blood, like your organs, your liver, your heart. So we will be talking about that in some of our upcoming shows. And I want you to think about that and let me know. Next week, I will be giving you a new email address so you can send questions in to me. I'm going to be launching Golden Years, Golden Fears soon. So we will get into all of those things on there, and the show and that will be interconnected, so you can learn more things. So when we're talking about that, we want you to think about your mental health as well as your physical health. There are so many suicides these days between young people and people, I'm talking teenagers now and younger, and people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Some of them are, unfortunately, due to this fentanyl that has invaded the drug market. And teenagers are getting these pills off the internet, and they're unlucky enough to get one that's laced with fentanyl and they're gone. But some of them have developed a lot of depression and anxiety because of the COVID lockdowns. You know, the human body as a teenager goes through lots of growth spurts, but they also go through a lot of mental changes also. It's tough to be a teenager. It's tough to be a young adult. You think you have your parents there helping you and sheltering you and protecting you, but they couldn't protect you from COVID. And I think that's the first time that most of these kids found out that there is a boogeyman out there. And it's right now the COVID and the flu and the RSV, the respiratory infection that's coming up. So thank goodness that schools are back open and the kids can go, because it's also been proven that these kids are not passing the COVID on to each other. But a lot of them are, unfortunately, passing on this drug problem because they go to a party and somebody has some pills that say, oh, come on, let's party, let's get high, let's have a really good time. And then they don't know it's laced with fentanyl. These are the cartels that are fed by the Chinese manufacturing these things, the fentanyl coming across the border now with the cartels. It's rampant, and they're on some of these social media sites that parents don't get on. We don't even know the name of some of them. So this is an epidemic. It's an epidemic. I think I mentioned one time that I counted up between my kids' schools when they were growing up and when they were in their young 20s. There were 7 guys who took their lives, their own lives. I'm not talking about getting fentanyl back then. I'm talking about they took their own lives, whether it was a conscious OD or whether they did it in some other manner. And you need to protect your mental health. And if you're feeling sad, you need to talk to somebody. Don't be afraid to share your problems. And don't be afraid that your friends are going to make fun of you, because they're not, because they're going through the same thing that you're doing. puberty, when your bodies are changing and your mind is changing, and all of the pressures of the world are suddenly real to you. There's a new number going around. I haven't dialed it. I'm afraid to dial it because I don't want somebody to come rushing over to my house. It's 988. I'm going to have to get on the internet and verify that this is true, but there always is a suicide hotline, and we will post that at some point. We'll put it up, all that information next week. I'll get that to Juan, my wonderful engineer, and we'll post those things on the show page too. So when you're starting to hit your 50s, your 60s, and your 70s, you need to take care of your mental health, and you need to take care of yourself, and you need to start writing down your plan for 2023 and the rest of your life, because you may be 50, 60, 70, or 80. You may have things that you never got to do when you were younger. And now's the time to do them. Now's the time to explore them. We will have lots of information on some ways to make money for those who have lost all of their savings, their life savings, due to the recession that's occurring, what's happening in the banking world. God forbid you bought crypto and lost money. I have a friend who lost $50,000, and he's in his 40s. And he doesn't know how he's going to make it up by the time of retirement. And he says, I'm going to have to work like you do until my 70s and 80s. Well, fortunately, some of us like to work, so it's not such a pain in the neck, but some of us like to create things too. So if you're in that position, my number one thing to tell you is do not buy crypto. I've said before I want to do a show on this, but I've not been comfortable finding anybody who says they're an expert in it and really telling me everything. And I certainly didn't contact FTX to tell them what and ask them what it was all about, because the owner of FTX apparently doesn't even know himself. What a scam. So be careful how you invest your money. You can get stung in the stock market. You're definitely not wanting to put your money into a straight savings account now and get 0.5% interest on your money. It's a hard, difficult question, and many of you have been pretty much wiped out with prices going sky high for real estate and thinking you could sell your home and live off of the earnings from your home that you've been in for 35 years, 40 years. And suddenly, because there was such a glut in the market of these beautiful homes, the prices now have dropped because the interest rates on mortgages have shot up. Some of you were lucky and bought at just the right time. I think you should hold on to that real estate if you possibly can. But there again, ask your financial advisor. Don't take my advice. So that is about it for what I want to talk about for wealth. But we will be talking about different things that you may want to do to earn a little extra money during this time of inflation and the so-called recession that we're supposed to not be in, but actually we are in. So let's talk about that. You know, there's this new thing called affiliate marketing. I had a guest on one time who was into that, and it sounds like if you have a computer or phone, you could probably do this. I think you should check out some of these sites that say this and be sure they're reputable and maybe ask for references or something. I don't know. But there's a lot of other things you can do. As I said, you could podcast. You could go down at your local YMCA or community gathering place, or maybe you live in an apartment and they have a rec room or a community room where they allow speakers to come in and talk. Maybe that you could start a bridge group or a mahjong group or a book club, something like that, so you can meet more people and you can have interaction with people. Because next to exercising and eating healthy, I think, is social interaction. And it's very difficult. If you've been working all your life, that is your social life. Those are the people you know and love. If you've been lucky enough to make friends in the business you were in. And it's very difficult after you're retired to keep these friends, but it's nice that we now have Facebook Live and we have Zoom and all sorts of ways, FaceTime, everything that we can do to keep up with our friends across the nation. Two of my very dearest friends live in Pittsburgh. So haven't lived in Pittsburgh since 1997. I went back for a short stay and our friendship bloomed again. We never got rid of each other as friends. To this day, they are two of my very best friends. And we talk or we text or we message on Facebook, something like that, all the time. So I think that's something that women are more fortunate at than men. We seem to be able to maintain our friendships or make new friends because we are so active. So many of us made friends during our kids' school days, working with the PTAs or the helping in the classrooms, things like that. So we also worked in a lot of charities and supported them. Maybe the wife never worked, but maybe her husband said, okay, this is your job, raising the kids, taking care of the house, taking care of our friends, inviting them to dinner, going out to dinner with them. And you are in charge of donating our money that we would like to give to people who are unfortunate and not as blessed as we are, or giving it to some place that is supporting the arts, supporting science, all different kinds of charities. So we make friends through that also. So I think it's very difficult for men. They do have the golf course and things, but as you grow older, maybe your rotator cuff isn't working exactly right and you can't hit that golf club. So you do lose friends, and it's imperative that you keep some of them and talk on the phone and enjoy life like that. And you should be really interacting with your spouse if you're fortunate to still have your spouse there. You should still, in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, have date night, whether you have to have DoorDash bring the food to you now or go out to the local pub. Go share a glass of wine, share a non-alcoholic beer. Just get out and see people around. You know, we even go to the grocery store, we women do, and our husbands don't. But it's people walking around, and you can't just sit in your home, your apartment, your condo, or wherever. And these assisted living homes now are so nice that I think you make a lot of good friends there too if you're still mobile and able to do things. Now, I'm not talking about people that are in the throes of dementia and Alzheimer's. So that's a whole nother discussion. You know, I'm running out of time, but I want to tell you, look at somebody you can find on Facebook or in the movie news, entertainment news, watch it on television or whatever. I so admire Dick Van Dyke. What a career and life he has led. He's in his 90s now. That man doesn't stop. He's kept moving and he can actually still do a little soft shoe dancing. And he speaks and he sings. And he's a delight. He went through a very bad period of time after the Dick Van Dyke Show, and he became an alcoholic, and he does speak to that. And if you're interested, you could probably find articles on it or something that he has talked about on the internet. This man, in my mind, he's not just a legend, he's a teacher. He has taught many of us to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So who else could say that but Dick Van Dyke? Okay, so what I have to tell you is we're getting very close to launching golden years, golden fears, and we don't want you to have any golden tears. So we will discuss all of these different things, and we'll be showing you some ways that you can become more involved and enjoy your life. Don't forget to pass on some of your wonderful knowledge to your teenage grandchildren and your little grandchildren and even the next door neighbor. You know, I don't know, I guess it's my age. We live in a beautiful apartment home, and their apartment homes are a little different than apartment buildings, but having lived all over the Midwest and the East and all, they're not like California. Most people in the cities live in high rises and things like that. So we've done that too. And we decided after all of our very nice houses, that we wanted to downsize. And we live in an apartment home that we love. It has many amenities. We're very fortunate, but we have 4 people, 2 and 2. You have your own entrance. And somehow I have become the den mother. You know, the den mother for Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and I'm the den mother. I guess it's my age, but it's also because I take an interest in life and I know what's happening in the news. And my friend George and I discuss all sorts of things, and he's a lot younger than I am. And he has elementary school kids and teenagers. So you can make friends anywhere. I don't know where people got in their head when they lived in apartments and places. You're not supposed to talk to your neighbors. That's the silliest thing I ever heard. We had to evacuate the first year we lived in here because of the fires, the wildfires in California. And when we got the notice to evacuate, it was in the middle of the night. Well, middle of the night, 11 o'clock, something like that. And I didn't believe it. And I looked out the door where I could see just the access street out here. It was bumper to bumper. And I said, oh my God, pick up our go bag. Because in California, anywhere you should have a go bag with your necessities in it. So I got my husband up and got the go bag. And then I realized that the other 3 apartments were not evacuating. I don't know what they were doing. They were sleeping. Well, I guess they all have to get up early in the morning. So around 11, they're sound asleep. I had to go pound on their doors to get them up and tell them to get in their cars and evacuate. It was that dangerous. We could see fire across the street. That dangerous. So to me, you should always know your neighbor. You might need them and they might need you. And that's that whole thing. Don't isolate yourself. Get up, have fun. And always be kind. Be kind to everybody you meet. All right. I want to tell you one thing. I'm really grateful that you have tuned in, and I thank you so much. And I want to leave you with these words. Cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today.